Hi everyone, my name is Laura Davis and I'm one of the resident artists here at the Obscura Art Lab in Santa Monica. My residency is fall 2020, so I'm just wrapping up. Sadly, I'm sorry to be losing this beautiful workspace, but I've had a great time working here. I started working with natural dye about 20 years ago, so I just wanted a chance to show you some of my ice dye works, and that is actually natural dye on the shopping bag. This is also a natural dye called Logwood that I really enjoy working with, but it's also a little temperamental, so it's always a challenge. I've been teaching and designing, and I really enjoy the research aspect of it, looking into the history of natural dye and its cultural impact, as well as the chemistry. And I'll be showing you a little bit later how much of a difference chemistry makes with natural dye. Natural dye is nothing like what most people think. If you've never done it before, you're probably expecting something like you get with a synthetic dye, where you mix it up and you get the same color every time and you get the same result by using the same process every time. There's always an X factor when you work with natural dye. So that's something that I've had to learn to appreciate. For me, dyeing is a discipline in that you have to not get excited and just start throwing stuff in the pot. You have to follow the chemistry and keep your documentation going. But it's also meditative, especially for someone like me. I'm not a naturally patient person. I am kind of a control freak. And that X factor has really forced me to learn to just take a deep breath and do what I do, give it the best science I can, and then learn to roll with results and appreciate them for what they are. If you're always trying to be in control of natural dye, you are never going to be a happy dyer. One of the reasons that I was so excited to be able to have this beautiful indoor space to work in is that I live in LA and we have a lot of weird environmental factors that can affect dyeing. The reason I chose this particular logwood as an example is that this was in a pot when a rather large wildfire broke out in our area, and I thought I would be really smart, and I went out and I grabbed my roll of gaffer's tape. I gaffer's taped all the pots shut so that they were completely sealed against the elements. When the fire danger was over, I went out and I Swiffered all the ash that I could get off the pots, and I very carefully unsealed them. And the moment I unsealed them, they went from gorgeous grape Kool-Aid purple to this sort of grayish color. In fact, some of them, before I managed to rinse them out, went all the way gray. So that's what I'm saying when I'm talking about there being an X factor. I did everything right, and this logwood was on track to be an amazing purple color, and then all of a sudden it was weird and gray. But I've learned to embrace the weird and gray, and I found a good use for it. It actually looks pretty good with the ice-dyed skirt. Speaking of X factors, I've planned and replanned this residency thanks to COVID and the fact that we can't have an exhibition here in the building. My original plan was to create a large visual display where I would use natural dyes to recreate the experience of standing under a liquid amber tree at sunset. When I revised my plan for an online exhibition, I decided to use smaller pieces to highlight the color range of the matter, the results of different dye techniques, and some upcycled clothing. This cotton top was accidentally thrown into a container with some wet stuff, and it got all stained, so I had fun turning it into a beauty instead of a shop rag. These leggings were miscut with different leg lengths, so I found them brand new at a thrift shop and used one of my favorite techniques to dye them. I dyed this silk scarf using the same technique as the cotton top, and this silk one is done with the same technique as the cotton leggings. They're both variations on traditional shibori arashi technique, and you can see how the different fibers reacted differently. Pipe wrapping is step one in preparing to dye an arashi pattern, and it can be quite time consuming. Even these smaller pieces took 15 to 20 minutes to wrap. This is an example of the results of sewn resist on China silk, which is very light and dyed in madder. This yellow was made from the same pot of dye at a lower pH than the scarlet one that we were just looking at. And this vermilion came from the same pot at the same time as the scarlet one, so they were at the same pH. The difference is the material that I pre-treated or mordanted the fabric with. This scarf and the scarlet and vermilion ones we just saw were dyed using the same madder material, but this one was done later. The salmon pink color on this one is what happens when the madder has less pigment in it because it's been used up. This scarf is dyed in the same batch as the salmon pink silk. This one is cotton. You can see they took a very similar color from it. This one had been previously dyed in Arashi indigo, and I wasn't happy with the results, so I decided to over dye it. This is from the same pot as the salmon pink. The bubblegum pink color let me know that this madder is almost ready for composting, but I decided to dip a botanical print that I'd done before and wasn't in love with. It had sort of a yucky tan background before, and I think the light pink made it much prettier. I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank everyone who has made this beautiful studio and amazing opportunity possible for me. I especially wanted to thank Naomi Okuyama, who not only encouraged me to apply for the residency in the first place, but helped me along the way with my application. Nathan Birnbaum, thank you for your help, and very much thanks to Clove Galilee, who has been an amazing help along the way. She actually made it possible to have these artist residencies continue even after COVID and when we thought it was not going to be possible. So thanks to all of you for your tireless work and your endless support. Thanks to all the staff here at the Camera Obscura Art Lab. They've all been so friendly and so helpful. Even when my car battery died on New Year's Eve, they supported me by coming out to jumpstart my car for me. Thank you. And if you are an artist and you've been considering applying for this residency, I cannot recommend it strongly enough. It's a wonderful place to work. It's an absolutely inspiring space to work in, and the people are just as kind and supportive as you can ever imagine. Again, thanks a lot, and good luck to the incoming artists for 2021.